Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be talking about the announcement of the latest rule sets coming in after Regulation E, which is of course Regulation F. So that's going to take place from January to April 30th. All right, so 4 months now, right? So we've been doing a bunch of 3-month formats, but now all of a sudden we are switching to a 4-month format, which can only mean one thing. It's that the format after Regulation F, unless they do something really gimmicky, would probably be the format for the World Championships. But that is after April 30th, right? But what are we doing from January up until April? So you can pretty much see the icons over here. You're gonna see Whimsicott and Metagross, and even over here the Arcaludon. I think that's what it is. Yeah, it is Arcaludon, not Duraladon. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at some of these Pokemon, and just go through them and just give a little bit of a spotlight. Not everything, of course, was announced or is available. That they're waiting until Christmas, as they said. Okay, but at the very least, we know what's not going to be there. It's not going to be any of these banned Pokemon, these mythicals, these box legendaries. So Kyogre, Groudon, and company are just going to have to wait a little bit longer, right? Maybe for some of you are saying like, thank God. But yeah, first of all, there's nothing wrong with restricteds, right? Whether it's a single restricted format or a dual restricted format, there's nothing wrong with these formats. You just have to know how to build around them. And just like any other format, there's going to be meta restricteds versus not so meta restricteds. Okay, you just have to know which ones are going to be really, really good and which ones are not going to be really, really good. Okay, but we're going to go past these. But by the way, we are not sure still about Walking Wake, Iron Leaves, and some of those guys. It just remains to be seen when we'll be finally able to use them. But at the very least, we know what is usable, where it says newly usable Pokemon. Okay, starting things, with Venusaur over here. So Venusaur, again, back in Sword and Shield, was one of the more dominant. Oh, that's Mega Venusaur. Was one of the more dominant Pokemon to use because of Dynamax, right? The G-Max Vine Lash tick damage was very, very strong, and then of course you had the sleep powder plays right afterwards. Now that being said, okay, and then you had the sun stuff of Curry, right? So Venusaur, right, was the thing, and I would imagine people are gonna try that yet again. But here's the thing: there's no Dynamax this time, okay? And then that being said, there's also lots of ways to quote unquote deny sleep powder, right? We have Goldango, we have grass types now that can switch into that and not have to worry about that. Taunt Tornadus is another thing that can really put dampers on Venusaur. You can even change the weather with Rain Dance. That can be, very problematic for Venusaur. So I don't think it's going to be as strong as it once was, from Sword and Shield. But I think people are still going to try this Focus Sash set that was a little bit more popular within Sword and Shield. It's going to be like a sleep powder spammer, right? Which is not very interesting in my opinion. So I don't think it'll be as good as it was in Sword and Shield. But I know people are going to definitely consider trying it. Okay, is this better than Hisui and Lilligant? That is a conversation that we will have to wait, for another video, right? If we were to just put them side by side a little bit, 105 speed, 80 speed, so you have a much better speed stat with the Lilligant. Okay, that being said, I think you get a little bit more utility with something like Weather Ball, for example. Okay, as opposed to not getting Weather Ball over here. You do have After You shenanigans. Okay. So it remains to be seen, but definitely people are going to consider trying it, and as they should, right? As they should. Moving down, we do have Blastoise coming back, and we don't really know what Blastoise can do just yet. But again, Sword and Shield, G-Max Cannonade was a thing, not as good as Venusaur, but it still had some decent usage there. And one set that Blastoise was getting was this Iron Defense Body Press stuff. Back in the Sword and Shield stuff, not when there wasn't Dynamax, this was used a little bit. It also got stuff like Icy Wind for support, and then Yawn. So this could be a set coming back for Blastoise, and it also had the more offensive set, with the White Herb, with the Shell Smash, Body Press, the Water Spout. Okay, so you can even just consider this with something like an Indeedee, for example, some kind of redirector. And then set up the Shell Smash and then go for a Water Spout. Now, that being said, we don't know if Blastoise is even going to be getting these moves, right, this time around. But if it got it in Sword and Shield, then hopefully it can make a return and, capitalize off of that. But again, if you're going to be using the Water slot, that means you're not using Urshifu. So you have to be careful there. You're right. Would you prefer using Blastoise over something like an Urshifu? That also remains to be seen. But hey, at least you get it back. You get another tool to toy around with. And honestly, as I go through some of these Pokemon, I don't think a whole lot changes within the meta. If Paradox Pokemon are still legal, like, Vileplume you're not going to use, Dodrio, maybe the Executor could be a thing. Grass Dragon is interesting. The Hitmons, maybe not so much. Lapras, again, that was a Sword and Shield thing, with Dynamax and set up screens with the Aurora Veil, of course, G-Max Resonance. You don't get that this time around. And I don't know too many situations or teams where you would use a Lapras over something like an Iron Bundle if you really wanted a freeze dry user, right? So I don't know if Lapras is going to see any play. Maybe it might. Who knows? Meganium never saw play. All right, Feraligatr, Skarmory. All right, now finally we get to Smeargle, and this is one of those Pokemon that is on a lot of people's minds, and just all things considered. Basically, what it used to do in the past. Now, it doesn't. I don't think this is going to be as good as it once was, right? This was the thing that drove people crazy, right? The Dark Void, right, when it was more accurate. But I don't think you have to worry about that anymore, necessarily. The Moody is going to be... People are going to try this, right? Again, just like Venusaur, people are going to try it. But I think now, with all the power creep, with stuff like Flutter Mane and Urshifu, right? I don't think this is going to be as good or as fearful as people are scared of or are saying, okay? I think you'll be just fine, okay? These stats are not all that great. That being said, again, Moody is relatively... can be a little bit scary. Like, people are trying this stuff, with the Alolan Muck. I know that's been going around. We fought that one time in the ladder. But I don't think people need to worry about this so much. I think this is more like a ladder thing as opposed to a tournament thing. I don't expect this to be like super, super great in those best of 3 tournaments. I do think people will use this in like best of 1 ladder. That for sure, I think they can really utilize it. But as far as like tournament play, I don't think Smeargle is going to be the way to go, necessarily speaking. Okay, but that's just me. Okay. So, if you want to talk more about Smeargle with me, feel free to comment and ask me some questions, right? And I'll elaborate a little bit more. But I wanted to get through this list and just see who it is we have available. Him on top, Magby. All right, great Pokemon, of course. Sceptile, maybe not. Blaziken could be something. I'm not so sure. It does get that the speed boosting, so you could potentially sweep teams. But again, I don't like the stat distribution with attack and special attack. I think that's a little bit punishing for Pokemon in that sense. But Swampert, maybe. It did get some play, outside of Dynamax. So that was always the thing. Like, it's got pretty good bulk. Like, base 100 HP, 90 defense, 90 speed def. Water ground is pretty good. You have terrestrialization now to remove your 4 times grass weakness. So that's going to be good for you. But, it just all depends on what else can Swampert do. Because, yes, it is bulky. But as far as, like, offense, 110 is not that bad at all. It's like, just okay. It's not, like, super, super great. It's not bad. But, you'll have to find some kind of niche for Swampert. And I just don't think if you just add Swampert to like a regulation D format, I don't think it does anything too drastic there. But, people are going to try it because people love the starters, right? So they're going to give it a shot, okay? Flygon, Ground Dragon, maybe not so much. But let me think about it. Ogre Pond stuff? Nah, I don't think so. All right, Metagross. So this one also, it was on the cover there, right? If you scroll back up, it was on the cover of Pokemon that you can get to use now. Now, with Metagross, it gets a little tricky, right? If you look at the stats, very good, right? This was used a lot in Dynamax era, of course, with the max steel spikes with the defense boost and the max quakes for the special defense boost. But, other than that, the psychic typing makes it weak to Flutter Mane, and the ghost moves are just not going to be so good for it. Now, again, that being said, you do have terrestrialization, right? So maybe you can have some play with Metagross. With Clear Bloody, it did have some play with weakness policy, right? We remember that. I used Metagross a lot in Sword and Shield. It was really, really strong. It was one of my favorite things to use, especially, with the Bulldoze strats. Here's the thing. How about this? Maybe you just might see some Salamence play with Metagross, right? We used to call this Metamence, right? And the whole idea was, back then you had this weakness policy item on the Metagross, and then you had Bulldoze on this thing. Now that being said, I think without Dynamax, I think Bulldoze is going to do a little bit too much damage unless you go with something like a negative attack nature, right? 0 IVs here, and then just have, you know, much more bulk on this Metagross, and then from there, go nuts, right? Maybe you go like this Tailwind Bulldoze set, so this way now Metagross can utilize the speed advantage completely rather than just like having only one thing here, and then maybe just like Draco Meteor or whatever, and then Protect, for example. So maybe you might see something like this. I know some people are definitely going to consider trying it, you know, just because it did work in the past, or it was a common item, but weakness policy overall has not been a commonly used item in Scarlet and Violet, you know, because there is no Dynamax, but it remains to be seen. Now that being said, do you get Bullet Punch? You do get Bullet Punch, so maybe you might be able to do something against Flutter Mane if you have this move, okay? So that might help it a little bit. And the other thing was, this is something that we used a little bit back in Sword 2. We had Tornadus here, right? Also with Tailwind, okay? And one move that it did get was Brutal Swing, where you are able to, again, hit yourself with weakness policy. But again, I don't think Tornadus gets Brutal Swing this time around, right? So I just don't think with that not being there that you can really utilize Metagross. But who knows? I will definitely try and explore it, but it just remains to be seen if we can really utilize this thing or not. All right, as we go down the list here, so we got Bastiodon and Magmortar. Oh, Rhyperior. Whoa, Rhyperior. Hold on a second here. This was another favorite within the Trick Room games. Look at these stats: 115 HP, 130 defense, 140 attack, and then a not so great special defense. This looks like almost a lot of the big hitters that we have right now, right? A lot of HP, a lot of attack, a lot of defense, not so great special defense, a little bit so. These look like Iron Hand stats, right? If you just put them side by side, you know, it's very, very, very similar, right? Look at this: 154, 114, 140 attack, same thing. 130 defense versus 108, so that's pretty good. Now 68 speed depth versus 55 defense. Now again, 4 times weak to grass, 4 times weak to water. You're almost forced to terrestrialize this thing, so I'm not so sure how well this can be used. But that being said, if you do have a Trick Room team with a Torkoal, okay, now you can all of a sudden reduce the amount of water damage that you're taking. So who knows? Maybe definitely Rhyperior could see some play, but I don't know how much as far as that is concerned. All right, Serperior, maybe, I'm not so sure. A lot of these stars not so great, honestly. Zeb Striker. Okay, finally, Whimsicott is something that is going to be used heavily for sure in the very beginning. Okay, it's your other Prankster user, and I'm just gonna put the other one side by side. You know, might as well, right? So you got Prankster, Whimsicott, you got Prankster, Tornadus, you got Tailwind on this side, you got Tailwind on that side. So now the question is, as we enter Regulation F, who is going to be the more better and preferred user of Prankster Tailwind? You got base 116 speed here, 111 speed here, so this is faster, okay? So that's already one little bit of advantage. But that being said, you know, Bleakwind Storm does a lot more damage. Now, Whimsicott gets a lot of cool tools. It does get Charm. Well, again, we don't actually know what's going to have this time around, but thinking about Charm, I'm thinking about Fake Tears, you know, especially with like a Flutter Mane or Chi-Yu, for example. That's going to be very, very dangerous for sure. You do get Encore Whimsicott, and this was also another thing back then. Whimsicott also got access to Trick Room back in Sword and Shield. So now you got a Tailwind Trick Room user. Tornadus did not get that. Now, the only other one that I can think of that does get Tailwind and Trick Room is, of course, the Galarian Articuno, but this hasn't had that much success this time around in Scarlet and Violet until recently when Mr. Jamie Boyd was able to get a good result with it finally, right? But that's a discussion for another time. That being said, you know, Whimsicott was great in like those best of one closed team sheets stuff, you know, especially in like best of 3 tournaments where it was closed sheets. But now, who knows? But I still think Tornadus will come out on top. Tornadus Urshifu is still really good. The fact that you have access to Rain Dance, okay, and the fact that you can just manually make your Urshifu that much stronger because of that. Whimsicott does not get access to that. I think it does get access to Sunny Day though, so you might have that going for you. So who knows? Maybe Whimsicott, Flutter Mane, Chi-Yu would be the play in that sense if Whimsicott did get Sunny Day, and then as well as like Fake Tier support. All right, and then maybe like just simple Moonblast over here, and then you start off with this, right? Chi-Yu, and then over here you have a Fluttermane. Maybe this becomes your other Tailwind core as opposed to Torn Urshifu in that sense. So who knows? It remains to be seen. Then as we go down here, Malamar, Galark. All right, finally we get to Incineroar. Ooh, okay, that one's a very interesting topic. And again, a lot of these mons, we're gonna do like separate spotlight videos, of course, but the king of VGC is back. Incineroar is here, and that means we raise the question, is the Hisuian Arcanine days up, right? Are the Hisuian Arcanine days numbered? Okay, that's what I'm asking here. Now, here's the thing. I think this gives you a little bit more of an offensive threat with something like Tornadus, Urshifu, and then the Fluttermane stuff, right? I think Hisuian Arcanine is much better there, okay, as opposed to Incineroar, which was much more successful on balanced teams. And people have been saying, you know, maybe Incineroar just doesn't do it this time around. Well, here's the thing. There was restricteds running around. Like, again, think of like Zacian, Kyogre, Calyrexes, and Incineroar was thriving in these environments, right? With these uber legendaries. And I think it's going to do the same thing again. Like, Fake Out, Parting Shot, okay, is just too good. And then, of course, you have your little Throat Chop. Maybe even gets knockoff this time, right? So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But again, slow Parting Shot user, which means now you have, like, again, look at this bulk, 95 HP, 90 defense, 90 speed def. Not too many people are fans of Incineroar, but I am one of them. I am a big fan of Incineroar, as are many stronger competitive VGC players. They just love this thing. It helps you position well, right? And, you know, the Hisuian Arcanine supportive sets are, you know, they're okay, but Incineroar just makes those sets a little bit more better and a little bit more viable. Okay, so be prepared to use your Incineroar again. And, you know, this is going to be a good Pokemon to have. It's much more splashable on a lot of different teams. You can put Incineroar on Trick Room teams, you can put Incineroar on Tailwind teams, you can put Incineroar on balanced teams, whereas Arcanine, you really only see it on like Tailwind teams, right? So I think that's one big separation, you know, with Incineroar and Arcanine, and you get Fake Out, by the way, right? So imagine this, Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Urshifu. You got the Fake Out brothers, and then you got Urshifu, right? So be ready to see this Fire, Water, Grass core come back. All right, we'll probably do another video about these three, you know, once the format does go live, but you know, it's just it's just a great trio, right? So be ready to see it, okay? Then as we go back here, Primarina could be something. Water Fairy is a pretty good typing, right? Just, you know, again, neutral damage to steal. So who knows what we'll get from Primarina this time around, but 126 special attack is pretty good. 116 defense, special defense is also relatively nice. And again, not so great physical defense, but again, this is why you pair it with an Intimidator like an Incineroar, like a Landorus. So this way it can actually be a little bit more bulky that time around. And, you know, similar stats, you know, something like Milotic, again, kind of like that, where, like, again, you're not so great defense, but very good special defense and decent special attacking stat, although this one is much more stronger in terms of that. So we'll have to see what kind of toolkit Primarina can give us this time around. But again, it's another popular starter that people are definitely going to be exploring. Okay, so, and again, Water Fairies are great typing. This did a lot of cool moves, so we'll have to see this time around what they want to release with Primarina. But I digress. All right, then finally we'll go into Alchemy and Duraladon over here. So, you know, the main niche or the main pickup with Alchemy is the ability to decorate, right? And, you know, if you can just, you know, click decorate onto something like your Fluttermanes, for example, that's not going to be great. Okay, you can click decorate, and now all of a sudden Choice Specs Fluttermane just absolutely goes bonkers. So we'll have to wait and see if this is going to be like a thing or if it's going to be allowed. So who knows? But Decorate Alchemy could be, you know, quite the thing. Look at these stats. These are actually pretty good stats. I don't mind it at all. And then finally, Duraladon. Now, Duraladon, are we going to get Archaludon, right? That's the main question. Is this thing going to be allowed? And then from there, you know, are we going to be, you know, using this a Violet item? You know, who knows? Okay, now there was, like, you know, arguments, oh, Bisharp Eviolite's gonna be great, it's gonna be better than King Gambit, or this thing with Eviolite is gonna be better than its final evolution form. You know, I don't know too many mons like that. The only one I know is like Porygon that has been able to utilize it. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see what Duraladon / Archaludon are really gonna give us, but we'll see. Maybe I think it could be good. Now this one is what I'm excited to see, like Incinar P2 combinations, right? Where you're just able to click Fake Out and set up Trick Room. I think we're getting Porygon 2 back, right? Yeah, I believe we are. So Fake Out, you know, set up Trick Room, okay? And then from there, you can click like your parting shots, and then, you know, just wear the opponent down with like your Tri Attacks, your recovers, right? Just becomes super bulky. All right, and then look, it just gets relatively hard to break. And then like it's not a bad special attacker either. So who knows what you can get out of Porygon? But I remember using this in Sword and Shield, and even with Dynamax, this thing was like not dying. So who knows? We'll see. But I do like Incinar Porygon 2 combinations. They were one of my favorites. So hopefully we can bring some teams back utilizing that duo. All right, but that's gonna be it for now, folks. Let me know what you think of the announcement of the Regulation F format. Again, the official list where everything is going to be completely updated will be released on Christmas. So that, I guess, this is their little Christmas gift to us. But what are some things you're looking forward to once the format is released? And are you going to miss Regulation E once it is, right? We still have 1 more month of Regulation E, so we're going to put out a few more rentals to try. You know, they've had some good success within some recent tournaments. So we're going to turn those into rentals and hopefully get you guys a little bit more CP. You know, if you're going to bring them to San Antonio, for example, that's coming up. So we're going to do coaching for that as well. So if you're interested in coaching for the upcoming San Antonio regionals, feel free to sign up on the channel. Video description has the link to join the channel, as well as in the comment section, there is a pinned comment where you can click the link, sign up for coaching, you know, and this way we can get you that team that you need to be able to be successful at these tournaments. All right, but that's gonna do it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.